I'd like to not only welcome our witnesses, I'd like to apologize to our witnesses for the hour delay. Unfortunately, neither the Vice Chairman or I have any control on the floor schedule for votes, and we had a couple snuck in on us, and it may not be the last time today, but I'll do everything I can to navigate us through this open session and then the closed session as quickly as we possibly can. I'd like to welcome Ambassador Victoria Nuland, former Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, and Michael Daniel, former Special Assistant to the President and Cybersecurity Coordinator at the White House. I thank both of you for making the time for us today. Today's hearing is the next step in our efforts to fully investigate and explain how Russia interfered in the 2016 U.S. elections, how we reacted, and more importantly, what we learned. Earlier this year, the committee moved quickly to discuss with the American people the threat to the voting system, and we welcomed legislation that sent urgent assistance to the states. We've thoroughly reviewed the intelligence community assessment on Russia interference produced in November of 17, and all the sources that underpin it, and held a closed hearing with the agency directors responsible for that product. The committee's ready to finalize our assessment of the Obama administration's response to the Russian interference, and today's hearing will be the first of a series of several capstone events. We've invited Ambassador Rice and her deputies to join us in a few weeks. We've also invited former leaders from the FBI and the Department of Justice to testify again in July. Today, Ambassador Nuland and Mr. Daniel have joined us for this important hearing. You sat on different sides of the same policy debate. Mr. Daniel sat atop the government's cyber apparatus, seeing indicators of Russian hacking activity unfold, both here in the U.S. as well as in countries like Germany and Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ambassador Nuland sat at the State Department watching Moscow aggressively pursue its interest in Ukraine, Syria, and elsewhere. Russia's interests and methods were a carryover from the old Soviet Union that we knew, but with a new twist. The Kremlin began to use social media, hack and leak operations, and quasi-governmental agencies to discredit enemies and to weaken adversaries. Ambassador, you and your team at State were well-versed in the Russian toolkit, and you understand Putin's political will to use those tools. In effect, to use the metaphor, each of our witnesses was touching a different part of the same elephant. Today, we'd like to know when the bigger picture emerged and how policymakers responded. Did they seek to deter Russia from undermining our democratic institutions? Did they take action? If not, what held them back? We as a committee have benefited from the insight of many from the Obama administration. I'd like to thank them publicly today on behalf of the committee for coming voluntarily to talk to our staff and for their candid interviews and testimony. They consistently said that they were operating in the summer and fall of 2016 without a playbook. This was a new threat with an undefined set of rules. It seemed they struggled to balance competing priorities. They wanted to warn the Russians to stop interfering, but avoid the appearance that the White House was putting a thumb on the political scale during an election year. They wanted to warn the public about Russia's efforts, but not carry Russia's water for them. They wanted the states to rapidly secure voting systems, but not alienate state election officials or undermine public confidence. We can look back with the benefit of time and distance and talk about what could have been done. As we do so, we must also look forward a few short months to 2018 elections and forward a few more short years to the 2020 elections. More broadly, we now realize that the Russian campaign was to fracture our society and cause general discord using all the tools that our technologically connected society offers. Our focus should be to prevent, to deter, and to harden both our elections and our society for the future.